Happy holidays, guys. We are really excited to share this very festive recipe with you. We're gonna be making peppermint whoopie pies. Comment below if you know what whoopie means. Making whoopie, doing whoopie. Do you remember the Game Show Network where they did the Newlywed Game and they talked about whoopie a lot? What does that mean to you? Today, it means delicious, delicious cookies. So get your kids involved, get your family involved. Make these for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Eve. We're gonna start with our dry ingredients. We're gonna start with the cookie. We'll do the filling after when the cookies are baking, but let's start with the dry ingredients. We have 1 cup of almond flour. We have 2 tablespoons of coconut flour. And what the coconut flour is gonna do is it's gonna make it more of a bready consistency, which is what you traditionally find with whoopie pies. They're on the breadier side, they like rise a little, they're soft. And then, of course, the unsweetened cocoa powder, we're gonna do 1/4 cup of that. And again, whoopie pies are traditionally chocolate. At least that's what they were growing up in Pennsylvania. Then we've got a teaspoon of baking powder and a nice pinch of salt. And that's it as far as the dry ingredients go. So we're just gonna give this a quick whisk. Make sure everything is mixed together. That looks good. Now we're gonna set this aside and we're gonna work on our wet ingredients. We're gonna start with 1/2 cup of butter. That's 8 tablespoons. Ideally, it would be room temperature. Ours is not. So we are going to soften this in the microwave. And the way you do that is we do like 2 minutes on power level 3, power level 4, and that'll just soften it up and it won't melt it down. All right, now our butter is nice and softened. You can see it's not melted down. And to that, we're gonna add 1/4 cup of powdered erythritol. We're next gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 large egg, ideally room temperature as well, and 1/2 teaspoon of liquid stevia. That's about 50 drops. I just like to eyeball it. And then we are gonna give this a mix. So now that my wet ingredients are mixed together, I'm gonna start adding my dry ingredients as I mix. And we are looking for a nice thick batter that holds its form when we scoop it. Once we see what the consistency is like, we're gonna add more water to help make it the consistency we want. That nice, thick, scoopable consistency that holds its form. So this is still pretty thick. We're gonna add 2 tablespoons and see what that gives us and maybe add a little bit more. So you may not see a difference in consistency, but when you're mixing, you'll be able to feel it. So when I first mixed it without the water, it was pretty thick. It was like clumping together and it was like harder to whisk it. But then once you add the water, it kind of smooths out and it's lighter in texture. So it's still gonna be really fluffy. And that's what we're looking for. So we're actually gonna let this sit for 5 minutes and get nice and thick. And that's that coconut flour working with the almond flour. And then we're gonna scoop it out onto a lined baking sheet. We're back and this has been sitting for 5 or so minutes. This is what the texture looks like. It's nice and soft and fluffy, but still very easily holding its form. We have our oven preheated to 350 degrees. We have our baking sheet that is lined. You can use a Silpat mat or parchment paper. And we are going to use a cookie scooper to make 1.5 inch mounds, and then we'll press them out. So let's start with our mounds. And you wanna put them about 2 inches apart. All right, so I have scooped out my batter and we're gonna be making slightly bigger whoopie pies, which I like, but you can make mini ones if you want and that'll make way more. So I'm just gonna pat these out. Okay, our cookies are formed and we're gonna pop these in the oven, and you don't have to use your finger like I did. You can use a spoon or a spatula, something if you wanna stay a little cleaner. We're gonna pop these in the oven 8 to 10 minutes, but we're gonna keep an eye on them. So we wanna see them slightly rise. So let's pop them in and then we'll get started on our filling. We're going for a peppermint filling because it's festive and it's delicious. So we got some peppermint extract here. This is gonna be the best option as far as flavor goes. You can leave it out though if you don't want the peppermint flavor, but peppermint and chocolate, just divine. And then as far as the filling goes, we're going the extra mile here. So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be using some beef gelatin powder and blooming that, and then adding it to the whipped cream to give it more of like a thicker consistency that you would normally find with the whoopie pie. But if that's too much work for you and you want to keep it simple, you can just whip up some whipped cream, add in some sweetener and some peppermint extract, and that'll be just as good. But I'm going to show you how to go the extra mile this holiday season. So in this bowl, we have 3 tablespoons of water, and to this, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of beef gelatin powder. If you don't have beef gelatin, you can just use the gelatin packets that you commonly find in the baking section of the grocery. And you can see it spread out, and this will bloom. So that means it'll thicken in the water so that when we add it to the heavy cream, it won't clump up. It'll spread evenly and make all of the whipped cream nice and thick. So we're gonna let our blooming gelatin sit for 5 minutes, and we're gonna get started on our whipped cream. So in a large mixing bowl, we're just gonna add a cup of heavy cream. We're just gonna whip this. All right, so while we were whipping our cream up, the cookies were done. So look at these puppies. So they spread a little. These are slightly flatter than I would like, but they're still gonna be really good. Matt's saying no, this is what he likes. Have you ever had a whoopie pie?
Yeah, my mom made them.
She don't make them as good as this mama. Just kidding. Shout.
Sneak this in my
Shouts
mouth.
to Mrs. Gatke, Mama Gatke. So we're gonna let these cool. So our whipped cream has been whipped to stiff peaks. So right now we're gonna pop our gelatin that's been blooming in the microwave for a quick 5 to 10 seconds and heat that up. That was actually just 7 seconds. You don't want to go much longer than 7 seconds. So what you're trying to do is have the gelatin that was a clump in the middle melt out and disperse into the water. And that's what we have here. So that's perfect. You don't want the gelatin mixture too hot, otherwise it won't mix uniformly with the whipped cream. The little secret, I'm not a fan of peppermint. So we're gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of peppermint extract. You can go extra, you can go less. You can do whatever extract you want. But extract is generally very strong, so a little will go a long way. And then we're gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of liquid stevia. If you did wanna use erythritol, just make sure it's powdered because you don't want that grainy texture in the whipped cream. And then now we're gonna add this gelatin mixture and give this another mix. I think adding the gelatin just from seeing it mix in is worth it. It gives you like a Cool Whip texture. So that's what we're looking for. So we're gonna pop this in the refrigerator and we're gonna let our cookies cool, and then we'll come back to assemble and taste test. All right guys, we're back. We have our cookies, they have cooled. We actually popped these in the freezer, not gonna lie, we wanted to get these done. And then our filling that was in the fridge, and look at this guys. That is straight whoopie filling. So I say go for the gelatin, but if you don't have the gelatin, you don't want to do that part, you can also add some cream cheese to the whipped cream, and that'll thicken it up nicely as well. It might just give you like a more of a cheesecake flavor, like that sour tartness from the cream cheese. Not my personal way to go, but let's try these. This smells like just such a delicious cookie on its own if you just want to make the cookies. So whoopie pie is a nice thick filling. You just push the cookie down. You don't want to break the cookie, so be careful. They are pretty soft. And then you can just skim and make it nice. All that's left to do is eat. Look at this, guys. You want to make these. These are impressive. All that peppermint. Oh my God, wow. So the winner here for me is that chocolate cookie. Just the perfect soft cakey texture. This is phenomenal. Also check out our food blog, ketoconnect.net. We have a ton of Thanksgiving, Christmas recipes, pumpkin pie cheesecake. We have 2 pecan pies you can try out. We have lots of cookies you can make just for finger foods, and these are definitely on the menu. Linked below is the description on exactly how to make these. You're gonna wanna make them. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon. Happy holidays, guys.